Broad topics, broad minds, broad hosts, but not just for broads. This is Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie MacDougall.
Welcome to Broadscast, everyone. Hi, Kim.
Well, hi, Jackie MacDougall. Welcome. I hope you've recovered from tax day.
Oh, yes.
It's a big, big thing.
I'm spending my millions. Spend your millions, America. Anyway, big show. Let's get to it.
We have a full show today, so let's hop to it. Are you cool with that?
Totally.
All right, so later in the show, we have Abi Caruthers, who is a hypnotherapist, joining us to talk about hypnotherapy.
She's not a ghost hunter, Kim.
I know, but like hypnotherapy makes me sound like, I should have like candles and music and whatever. Right. I do that in my off nights. Okay, but like we always like to start our show with some broad topics. And so something that we saw this week, I happened to see it live when it happened on Saturday Night Live this past week with an ad that they do, these great commercials called, this one was, what was it? Heroin AM or something. Correct. And Julie Louis-Dreyfus was the host this week, and she was in this ad. And people are up in arms about this funny commercial.
Do you think it's funny?
I chuckled. I am not easily offended, so I was not as offended as the world seems to be. Right. But I can totally see it. But I'm interested. We have a guest coming on, Jen Levinson from Jen's List, to talk about it and share her thoughts about it. Hi, Jen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So tell us your feelings about the SNL skit from this past weekend.
There is such a huge heroin/drug epidemic in this country. And I have been working so hard to try to bring awareness to people who are in denial. And I think I was such in shock that they could actually try to find comedy or make light of or think that people would laugh at a commercial that was really encouraging people to continue with their heroin use. I found it out of line. I found it in poor taste.
Right.
And there are so many other ways to make people laugh, and that just really missed the mark. I know that people on the other side have come back to me with the rebuttal of, well, it gets people talking, and I understand that. But even from a sensitivity standpoint, they have had stars of their program die of this drug, and yet they still chose to use it to get people to laugh. And it just really struck a nerve.
What do you say to those who think comedy is fair game and that, this is SNL, they poke fun at politics, they poke fun at all different types of people, that, this is just comedy and that they can, I hear what you're saying. I'm just curious, like, at what point are we...
When it kills people,
okay,
it's not funny anymore.
Yeah. I mean, here, the thing is, I have a close family connection to heroin and what it can do to people. And it's devastating. But I don't know that I hold the bar too high for SNL, you know what I mean, than I do for like the people I care about. So I'm just curious, like, so what can you do?
I found the topic offensive. I just think that there are people dying by the droves.
Yes.
Daily.
Yes.
And so to choose that topic, I mean, sure, make fun of politics. People aren't dying daily because of the Republican or Democrat Party. But they're dying daily from drugs, and it's taking our children. It's taking our moms. It's taking our dads. It's taking our sons, our daughters. It's just, there's just some things in life that should be off limits, and I fully believe that making fun or the light of heroin use is one of them.
Right? Well, I think there are a lot of people that agree with you. Kim, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, well, what about when they do skits on people that are alcoholics? Like, is that, or, when when they do the skits with Bill Cosby and the rape allegations. Like, there are people that are victims of that and that have, suffered at that. Is there anywhere that there's like it's acceptable, or is when it's like that vile and that traumatic that's just where you draw the line?
For me personally, those are not topics that I find funny. I don't,
Right.
There are lots of people who in this world who have been affected by rape. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that it is a very, very sensitive subject. But that said, with regard to drug use, mm-hmm. Especially where it said how you can be productive and still use heroin. And I know she was seeing dinosaurs, and that's very funny, but that's what happens probably when you take heroin.
Right.
The thing now versus even maybe 30 years ago is our drugs are different. Heroin is not even the same that it was 30 years ago. It's being cut with so many different things, including fentanyl, which is 80 times stronger than heroin. And that's how people are dying in the first time they use it. So again, I think because I'm so passionate about this topic, because I have seen it destroy so many lives. Maybe that's where you draw the line. When you see something destroying lives,
yes, destroying
families, maybe that's where you draw the line.
And I think, there's a reason we asked you to be on the show, because I think, first of all, that you've taken this role standing up for kids and standing up for families and using your voice for good. And I totally commend that. But I think the line for me, because I like I said, the bar is very low when it comes to me and SNL. However, when our kids are 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds, it is, and Kim knows more than, as much as anybody else doing the work that she does. But there are kids every day in every city, in the suburbs, in the cities, in the country, who have access to this drug and
that are dying.
Yes. And I don't think SNL was looking to start any sort of positive conversations. However, if we can use this to start conversations for awareness, then I think we've got, it serves its purpose.
And the honest to God truth is I don't watch SNL. Somebody sent me the commercial to see. So I don't even watch it, but I did see it. And it just, I've watched it a few times, actually, because I'm trying to find the point of the, quote, advocates that say, oh, well, they're just trying to raise awareness, and it's just trying to be funny, and they're just trying to start the conversation. I've watched it plenty of times trying to find that aspect, and I can't.
Right. I try to apply that to SNL in general with all of their skits. Honestly, I watched it. My son happened to be with me, and I didn't find it funny. I wasn't offended by it. But again, I don't get offended that easily because I've just seen so much stuff that I can't get myself all riled up all the time. But listen, I work with teenagers. I work with kids that are drug addicted. So I totally get it. I'm sort of exhausted always fighting the fight when it comes to that stuff because, it was in poor taste. I didn't find it funny. I thought it was kind of a lame thing. But it sucks that we get to a place that we sort of just accept it as being lame and stupid and we don't even do much. I love that you got all angry and PO'd about it. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And if you want to discuss with Jen and everybody else who's talking about it we have it on our Facebook page currently. Jen Levinson, thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me.
And we have to have you on because you have such a perspective and strong opinion, and we, I love talking to you in real life, so we'll have to have you on the show more often.
I would love to.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we'll be right back.
You're listening to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Sweet Little Jackie.
Welcome back to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie MacDougall.
I'm really glad I stayed this time.
Aren't you glad?
I'm really trying to bolt every time we take a break, but you won't let me.
I'm excited for today's episode. We are with Abi Caruthers in studio. Abi is a certified hypnotherapist.
Your voice changed a little bit right now. You said she's a certified hypnotherapist.
Did I get all relaxed?
Yeah.
Maybe she's hypnotizing us as we
suddenly
speak.
like
And here in
sleep.
Oh, yes. See that? I'm asleep now. But thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Are you going to hypnotize us into
It's actually already done.
Okay.
You guys are great. You're all fixed.
And now we believe we're
of ourselves.
That's correct.
Kim. We are now megastar radio people.
All right. We think we tried that once before. Maybe not. I don't know. Past life.
Anyway, welcome. So our question today is hypnotherapy the key to happiness?
Oh.
So let's start with, what the heck is hypnotherapy?
Well, it's when people cluck like chickens or they bark like a dog.
That's what happened to me. I did that once and I clucked.
Sounds like college.
What's funny is that's the misconception, right? So many people think that as soon as I snap my fingers, they're going to go into a deep state of unconsciousness, or I'm going to mess around with their minds and take out anything that they don't want anymore and completely change their personality and put in all the new desirable behavior. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. I would be so very wealthy if I could do that.
Right.
I, wouldn't be hustling. So really what it is to talk about what hypnotherapy is, let's kind of backtrack a little bit and talk about what happens in the mind. So the mind is divided basically into two parts. You have the conscious and then you have the subconscious. Most people think that we, pretty much operate on your conscious mind. Feels like about 100%, but it actually is only about 12% of your conscious mind. The rest is subconscious. It's 88%. And where does your subconscious programming come from? It comes from before the age of about 12 or 13 years old. So it houses your beliefs, your behaviors, your attitudes, your ideas, your relationships with everything, with people, with money, with your environment, with the world. It literally colors the way that you see the world. It's like having a pair of glasses on, and everything gets filtered through these glasses to make sure that it matches with what's going on in your subconscious. So the reason that hypnotherapy comes in, I'll just keep going unless you interrupt me.
No, please do.
It's interesting.
You're much more interesting than we are.
I highly doubt that. But the reason that people decide to use hypnotherapy as a means to heal some old wounds is because between the conscious and subconscious exists a barrier. It exists almost like a guardian. It's called the critical mind, and the critical mind's job is to protect all of the subconscious behavior and prevent anything from coming in unless it matches what already exists. So let's
give that to us again in layman's terms.
Absolutely. Great. So let's say that
broad's terms.
In broad terms, for all my broads. So let's say, for example, you have this idea about happiness. I want to be happier. Your 12%, your conscious mind, logics that, makes a decision. It's reasonable, analyzes. Okay, I can do this. Being happier is just a matter of moderating my thoughts or whatever. And then you use your willpower and you just go for it. I'm going to be happier today. Well, then that thought hits the critical mind, and the critical mind goes, let's check. Well, we don't know if we're going to bring this into subconscious behavior. We don't know if we're going to incorporate this into the way that your mind works without you thinking about it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it goes, let's check what's down there. Oh, well, when you were 8 years old, your Uncle Harry told you that you'd never amount to anything. I
always hated that guy.
That guy. He's not welcome in my home. Or one of your parents was overly critical, even though they may have been trying to push you to do better because they saw your potential, if it's more criticism than praise and approval and acknowledgement, then you've always got that thought that I'm not good enough.
Right.
I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be acknowledged, because if I did, then the people who brought me into this world would acknowledge me, praise me, love me. But of course, as adults, we know it's just not as simple as that. Our parents do their best, the same as we as parents do our best. But it can be microcosmic little things like that can really form the entire subconscious programming. So if you get a thought like that, it says, I don't deserve. One of my clients sabotaged everything. She knew it. but she didn't know how to stop it, and she didn't know why. So finally, we kind of like went back and back. We're digging. Turns out that as she was growing up, she had a really loud laugh, and everybody always told her to shh, don't laugh so loudly. Bring it down. I can hear you from all the way over there. And so what she translated that in her child mind was, it's not okay to be happy.
Wow.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So is there a way to get from point A to point B as an adult? Like, so you're saying that, so I've decided to be happy today and here's my willpower, but that it's not going to work because it doesn't match the subconscious?
Yes. So basically what happens is once the subconscious mind goes, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any proof that can work here.
It shuts it down.
Absolutely. It just bounces it right back out again. Just bounces us out. And then, we wake up every day and we're like, okay, today I'm going to be happier. And it goes in and then bounces right out. And here's the thing is that every time we receive messages confirming our old programming, it makes it stronger. And we just keep filtering out anything that works against that old programming. So
isn't that amazing though? Because then when you hear those things that you believe at your core, see, I was right. This is what, yes. However, you could hear 50 times more often the things that you don't believe in your core, and you poo-poo those ideas because they don't match.
Absolutely.
So you could hear like, you are amazing and you are
beautiful.
You have the most incredible laugh I've ever heard, to bring back your client. Right. But she's not going to believe that because it doesn't. Oh, that just I could cry on this one. It's very deep.
It's super deep.
So how does a session like? So what do you do? Like dig in there and start.
I want to go back. How is it? How is or is it different than what like a therapeutic session would be that doesn't involve the hypnotherapy part of it? Like, what's the differentiation between the two? Because like I've had those sessions with a therapist.
Absolutely.
So where's the difference?
Great question. The difference is with talk therapy, you're not reaching that subconscious programming. You can't get through it. Whereas with hypnosis, what you're doing is you are shutting down the critical aspect of the mind. So even though you're not unconscious in hypnosis, that filter relaxes. It doesn't disappear entirely, but it relaxes, and you can start to find ways through it. So you can start to desensitize some of those old programs, and you can create new associations. So for example, does that answers your question? So to go back to your question, for example, like with that client, for example, in hypnosis, I would have her visualize a time where she's open and happy and laughing, and everybody around her is accepting and smiling, and she feels comfortable and relaxed, laughing and being happy. So you plant these little associations in the subconscious mind so that they gradually desensitize this old programming and allow it to be released.
So that subconscious mind now becomes the conscious mind.
Correct. And so that subconsciously, the new idea that is gradually accepted by the subconscious mind is, it's okay to laugh loudly and be happy too. I can do that. But
where does habit come in? Because let's just say, because I know you deal with weight loss as well, or other habit forming issues. So it's tough to kind of make this analogy with the laughing. But if somebody automatically goes to a refrigerator, or somebody automatically yells, or like they do what they've been doing for years and years and years. How even changing that subconscious, how does that change then the habit?
Great. Really great question. So what's fascinating about habit, it's a physical groove in the brain. It's a physical neural pathway that exists. That's the only reason why we do what we do, is because there's a neural pathway to send the energy down in our brain. You can create new neural pathways anytime you learn something. Anytime you do something new, a new neural pathway is created. You can reinforce it in hypnosis. And the reason why it's important to reinforce is because energy in the brain takes the path of least resistance. So the habit is to get mad and yell, but the choice is to take a deep breath and walk away. Doing the choice is a lot harder because it's the path of least resistance. You have to physically force the energy to go down that pathway, but it is literally happening in your mind as you do it. You have full control over where that energy goes. Really, really interesting. Every time you send the energy down that pathway, you're strengthening that pathway, as if it was the difference between a freeway and a little narrow path in a field. Absolutely. The more you travel that field path, the more it becomes the freeway, and the less you use the freeway path, the more it turns into the garden path until it disappears completely through lack of use.
So I go back again to how is it different than the talk therapy part? Like where because you said before that you're unable to get to the subconscious part. Like, I'm raised in therapy doesn't mean I've cured all my woes, but
you're not fixed.
I feel like I'm pretty insightful about where my stuff comes from. I'm pretty well versed in where it's connected to, in like a childhood thing or an adulthood thing. Where is it different? Or is hypnotherapy better for the people that struggle with being able to connect with those things? Because like I personally feel like I'm pretty good about being honest about where my stuff comes from, which to me I guess feels like I'm connected to my subconscious, but maybe I don't understand.
Absolutely you are. No, absolutely you are. Yes.
So when you're talking about doing hypnotherapy, the part that relaxes the brain, right? Like explain that. I'm stuck.
Well,
like I'm stuck here, and then maybe this is where like I'm.
Can I just for a second? So. But it sounds like you may understand, or one may understand where things are coming from, but you can't intrinsically change that gut feeling inside when it happens still. Is that
a little
sort
bit
of...
right? Exactly. So,
I told you this is hypnotherapy for
it.
dummies.
I love it. It's great. Exactly. So the fact that you know where that's coming from means that you have access to your subconscious mind. You have opened it up and you're starting to dig into it.
Okay.
Jackie, you're on the right path. Exactly. Just because someone may have an insight about why doesn't mean they can change the how, what, when, where.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So it doesn't mean they can change their reactions, doesn't mean they can change their triggers. So, if you have an old hurt that triggers a reaction, let's say it's a noise, let's say it's a word, let's say it's just a behavior, doesn't mean that you can consciously change the behavior even though you have the insight.
Right.
You can. It is possible. It is possible to create new programs consciously.
Okay, so
it takes about 8 to 10 months of consistent action.
Okay, so let's use the example of the woman with the laugh.
Yes.
So in your work with her, you said that you to have her visualize times when she was laughing and it was accepting. So what is that doing? So kind of, I don't want to take away. I don't want to identify who the person is, obviously, but like, give me a little. Tell me how that works.
Sure. So if we go back to kind of like the science of it, the neural pathway. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Good. No, I just want to make sure I'm being clear, completely clear.
As I look glassy-eyed on there.
I'm like deep sleep. So every time you have a visualization, every time that particular client imagines that scenario or a different scenario where she's happy and she feels comfortable with it and it's acceptable to her consciously and subconsciously, it's planting a neuron in the neural pathway. But it's not necessarily connected. Okay. So it's as if we're building a brick road, but we're just putting down one brick at a time. And it's random. It's haphazard because who knows how things happen in the subconscious mind. But you just do. You just consistently put down a brick, put down a brick, put down a brick, put down a brick. And then one day, boom, the neural pathway starts firing and all of a sudden information starts going down that road. Instead, you can do it consciously, but it does take about 8 to 10 months of consistent behavior, and consistency is one of the things that is hardest, right? With hypnosis, not only does it cut down the time, but it also places the bricks faster. So it's a similar process. It just kind of cuts down the time, and bless you, it doesn't necessarily. I'm a firm believer in going to a therapist. I've been to a therapist for a long time. I found the most dramatic changes happening in my life after I started going to a hypnotherapist as opposed to a regular therapist.
Yeah. So it doesn't replace necessarily where it was stemmed from. It just it dulls the negative impact of it. So that, because I don't know. I keep what I keep as you're talking. All I keep hearing or seeing is that movie Inside Out. You know, with the core memories and stuff. And I'm like, I think that it's important to have those core memories, but then how it develops in your life. And so I don't hear you say that it replaces those things.
No,
it just
impossible.
redirects. Okay,
absolutely. It's impossible to take a memory out. It's impossible to change someone's personality. It's impossible to
it just redirects.
Exactly. It just kind of desensitizes. So if we're using Inside Out, because I love that movie, it's so great. If we're using Inside Out, let's say that one of the islands is Anger Island,
right,
or something like
that.
Yeah,
I live there sometimes.
Right.
I love that place.
It's okay. It has its purpose. In hypnotherapy, what we do is we would, let's say, lessen the connections to Anger Island and put up a toll bridge so that we were in complete control over kind of getting to Anger Island. Whereas maybe there's more bridges than one. Everything takes us to Anger Island. In hypnotherapy, you just kind of lessen the impact it has on you.
I think that's a great analogy that there's not 10 bridges to get to Anger Island. That hypnotherapy makes just one, which makes it harder to get there because there's a lot of traffic.
And you control it. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's like LA traffic going into Anger Island. Right. But also it seems like if you, let's take the laughing example. It's just our example of the day. That if you believe in your core or in your subconscious that your laugh is not acceptable, and then you are programmed or you open up to believe that your laugh is beautiful, and then you have similar strength in your subconscious, like my laugh is horrible and my laugh is beautiful, that you can start making the choice as the beautiful starts to get stronger.
Absolutely.
Like they're both there.
Yes.
One just shines brighter.
Yes.
Right? And
Absolutely.
so there's a time where they're at the equal brightness and you kind of have to choose.
You do. Yes.
Oh, look at me. I'm like...
you're like right on it. You know hypnosis. So 100%. And so that's one of the things that I have to teach my clients is that I cannot do it for you. I cannot hypnotize you so that you magically all of a sudden one day change your behavior, because I am not your free will. I am not your willpower. At the end, it's still going to be up to you to choose.
So you can't hypnotize my son so he knows his times tables? Is that what you're getting at?
No, actually, that's easier.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, I'm bringing him in tomorrow. Seriously, struggling with those
kids,
8s.
Kids are so, oh my gosh.
Does this work for kids? Because aren't they still, what if they're still building that? Is that
easier?
Much easier. You can actually help build their subconscious, because it's until 13 or so with positive messages.
Oh, absolutely. I work
wipe out
with kids. I work with, specifically it would be bedwetting, but in this valley, anxiety is a big one, and just 1 or 2 sessions, because they're so open. Kids are in and out of hypnosis until the age of about 15. They're in and out of hypnosis all day long. We are too as adults, but
usually only when we ask them to do something, though. Right, Kim? Am I right, Kim?
I hear you. I know exactly. So they, they're very influential in hypnosis, and so you can just put some of those positive messages in there, and they just take hold. The only thing that's a little trickier before the age of about 14, 15 is ADHD, because the mind is still developing. That needs to be kind of on a consistent basis until, they're kind of in their 20s. But with adults, you do a few sessions and boom. Like a lot of the symptoms are really desensitized. It's really amazing.
How did you move from sales and marketing to hypnotherapy?
And what kind of industry were you working in as far as sales and marketing?
I've probably done them all.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I've done cruises. I've done insurance. I've done jewelry. I've done electronics. I've done...
Wow.
Yeah. I've done retail. I have done restaurants. I've literally worked the gamut. I've done the computer industry. I was the marketing director of a computer company for a few years. So pretty much dipped my toe in everything. And the reason I loved sales is because I loved working with people. I've always loved people. I love connecting with them. I love helping them. And so I was always really good. It was something I was always really good at. But it wasn't the thing. It wasn't my thing. Everybody has a thing where they're like, this is it. This is what I was brought to this planet to do. And sales wasn't it. I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't content. And so I found myself kind of at a crossroads with no company, no job, no, no nothing, just, me and my daughter. And I'm like, okay, I'm in my mid-20s. Well, mid to late. And I had a decision to make, and it was, do I go back into sales because I could get a job tomorrow? I literally, I had five job offers in my email just saying, okay, we'll hire. Or do I find that thing? Do I find the thing that I'm supposed to be doing? And I read a book, and it was written by a hypnotherapist. It's called Journey of Souls, and I highly recommend it to everybody.
We'll put a link to that on our website too, so that way people can find it.
Yes, good idea. And it just blew my mind that hypnotherapy, number one, was a thing. Didn't even know about hypnotherapy being a thing before. And number two, that you could do it actually for, a profession. It's like people will pay money for me to sit there and talk to them, which is what I do all day anyway, and then help change their lives, which is literally what I'm on this planet to do. And then I get to watch their journey and wait, what? I get money for this? This is crazy. So that's my story.
Wow.
So then you went to school. I mean, did you have to search for where to get trained?
Yeah. So that day I typed in, hypnotherapy training.
Oh, that's because you're an Aries, right?
Exactly.
That's what we do.
Yeah. We just act in the moment. And so I found one. There's HMI College of Hypnotherapy, which is one of the best schools in the world for hypnotherapy training. I had no idea. Just happened to be the closest one. So called them up, made an appointment, went down the next day, signed up for the next class. But I walked onto the campus. It's really interesting because I walked onto the campus and I was having deja vus like crazy. And then I just knew. It was just like I'm home.
So for our listeners, if you're just joining us, we have Abi, who's a hypnotherapist. She's on with Jackie MacDougall and myself, Kim, on Broadscast. So how many people are like, what the heck is this hypno thing? It's kooky. It's like too out there. Like, how do you, you put it in a way that is obviously very relatable for people, but there's lots of people, myself included sometimes, that like the froofy stuff.
Yes, like it's a bit woo-woo.
Yeah, like how do you, for someone who likes to be in control, I
love froofy.
How do you educate someone that it's not a loss of control, that it's actually a better way of gaining control? I mean, I feel like that's you're saying.
That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah. So when I hear hypnotherapy, when I hear these like vision boards and stuff, I'm like snoozing, but only because it's not. She hates when I snort. It's not because I don't. And I'm all like
vision board, like it'll change my life, and she's like, ah.
But I was raised in talk therapy. I was a psych major. That was my internship. I'm very like the hypno part. Like it's new to me, so I'm like skeptical.
Right, absolutely.
But I have gone to psychics. Like I'm a weird. I'm a weird connection of myself. Like I'm weird in that way. But I'm
analytical, but still spiritually open.
But the therapy part, I mean, that's what I do for a living. That's what I support. I love it. But how do you, for people that are still on the fence, like what do you tell them that makes people comfortable? Like what, or don't you, or are people already at the place where they're totally open to it by the time they get to you? Or do you still feel like you have to convince people?
No, I would say that probably 3 out of 10 people that I talk to about hypnotherapy are very much skeptical, are very much like, I don't think that works, or, I don't, okay, that's nice.
Are you their last stop?
Definitely.
Okay.
Always.
Okay.
Yeah. People are not going to try hypnotherapy until they've gone through everything else. Mm-hmm. So they are at that point where they're like, okay, just, tell me something tell me this is going to work. And then for people who are a little bit more logical, analytical, I break it down. Even though I am very spiritual, I am a science girl. I like to understand about neural pathways. Tell me about why my energy, why the electricity in my brain is not traveling down the right neural pathway, and tell me how scientifically we can fix that, and why is hypnosis going to work? That's what I want to know. And that's what I needed to know before I could get on board as a hypnotherapist. And once I kind of, because I do a diagram of, okay, this is the mind, this is a theory, this is, technically how it works. When I start to say some stuff that they're like, that makes sense. Then there's a little bit of, okay, I'm prepared to hear the next sentence that you have to say. There's a little bit, okay, well, maybe you know a little bit about what you're talking about. And then, you know, especially when I start to go into the science of it and psychoneuroplasticity, and it's all very, very interesting and all scientifically documented. You know, there are research studies upon research studies upon research studies that have results, and I'll send them those studies. I don't mind. I encourage people to question because, number one, I'm Jewish, and so that's what we're supposed to do. But also, don't come to me because someone told you this is going to work. Come to me because you believe. You know, come to me because you want to, and you're like, okay, I'm in. Right. You know?
And can it work for, I mean, do you have people come into your office and they cannot be hypnotized?
Never.
Really?
It's never happened.
So, I mean, you can't fight it, or I guess by the time they come in, they're ready to at least give it a try.
Yeah. There was this one example of a client who's really sweet. So sweet. Oh my goodness. He's the owner of a sound production studio for the industry. And he was coming in because his wife wanted him to quit smoking. So I was like, okay, so have a nice day. Because if you don't want it, it's not going to work. You know, I don't want to waste your time or money or my time or money. So it's fine. Have a nice day. And he's like, oh, okay, fine. No. I have to do this because, you know, I promised my wife I would. I was like, okay, fine. He's like, but I cannot be hypnotized. I was like, okay. So, you know, we do the whole thing. We kind of do all the talking part, and then we're going into the hypnosis part, and he's going under. And there's physiological signs that I can see that tell me what I need to do, and when someone's going under, and I can see them, and I'm like, okay, good. Yeah, I thought so. And then he keeps snapping his eyes open as he can feel himself going deeper. See, I told you it wouldn't work. And I'm like, okay, just close your eyes. You got to keep your eyes closed. No more talking. And so he keeps closing his eyes, and he's going deeper and deeper. Because here's the thing is that there's a type of hypnosis, induction, that is you open your eyes and you close your eyes. So every time you close your eyes, you actually go deeper into hypnosis. And he was hypnotizing himself. So I put him in the chair. Because finally I'm like, okay, the fifth time he opened his eyes, like, I told you it wouldn't work. I'm like, get in the chair. So he gets in the chair, and he's going, and his breathing changes, and I can see like his eyes roll back in his head, like I can see everything. So you know if somebody... yeah, the fluttering of the eyes, boom, glazing over, boom, you're going in, you know. And then he's like super deep, and he didn't talk for like a good 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden he pops up out of his chair. And he comes over to my desk and he goes, thank you very much. Have a nice day. And he laughed.
Is that the last time you saw him?
Yes. It sure
is he smoking, I wonder?
I don't know. I don't know.
So he...
well, we didn't even get to the no smoking part.
Oh.
Because he was so resistant to
he won't stop clucking like a chicken. But
absolutely, yeah. So he was just very logical, very analytical, and very, very uncomfortable with the sensation of relaxation. That's it.
Because when you're in, and for, you know, full disclosure here, I've gone to you a few times now, and there's something flying around the studio, but it's a hypnotized bug or something.
Yes, it's going to stay over there. How
do people feel? Because, I mean, I remember when I went to you the first time, and you had me do this little exercise where I put my hand up to my face and the whole thing. And I was visualizing myself put my hand up to my face until I felt my hand touch my face. And I was like, what the? Like, it was because I didn't realize it was actually happening. I thought I was just imagining it. And so it was crazy. But it's kind of like, you know, the first time you have a drink where you're like, oh, I want that feeling again. Like, and then after that, I think it's more, you're just more alert, but you're relaxed, but it doesn't feel as intense or as crazy, or as maybe it's just me, as the first time.
Right.
So you're really there.
Yes.
I find myself going, am I hypnotized? Am I not? Like, but then at the end of it, I was like, how did 20 minutes just go by? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't open your eyes. You're like, okay, I was somewhere.
Yeah. It's just fascinating. So what kind of things do people come in? You mentioned the smoking. You mentioned the woman with the laugh. Like, what are some of the issues that people come in?
Weight loss is a big one, and that's that's kind of why you.
That's your bread and butter right there.
It's why I even
so to
started
speak.
my program is because 7 out of 10 people are coming in for weight loss, but not everybody can afford $100 a session until they're at their goal. That's
right.
That's a process. Sometimes.
So you started Love Weight Loss.
Yeah. So we've got the weight loss. Anxiety is huge. With kids and adults alike, like it ranges the gamut all the way through teens. Everybody's suffering from anxiety.
Why do you think that is?
Just the pressures of society. There's with the more that social media allows for us to compare ourselves to other people, the more we put pressure on ourselves to not being perfect. It's just this idea that we have to be perfect and we're not living up to our expectations. And there's a lot of that, and it's everywhere, and it's supported by the media, and it's supported by our subconscious programming that's telling us that we're not we're not perfect. So a lot of fight or flight, so people aren't learning how to
cope.
Exactly. They're not learning coping mechanisms to deal with their anxiety and their depression. So they just bounce backwards and forwards between them.
What kind of results do you see in all these different areas?
Anxiety, after about 2 or 3 sessions, they're good. And
then really, they don't have to come back anymore?
Very quick. Usually, yeah, but usually after they're like, oh, wow, that was quick. I need to work on such and such then.
Right.
Because,
because they see the results. And
absolutely. Okay. And I'm not a medically licensed professional, so I cannot diagnose. I cannot prescribe medication. I can't suggest that anybody comes off their medication as my disclaimer. But in a few short sessions, usually people have started to wean themselves off or are off them completely. Just because I don't know, it's just magic.
But what kind of tools do they have
to not go back into?
Yeah, and how do you explain? You explained to us before about like the habits and the how do you get rid of anxiety?
If someone doesn't have the tools to get them to not be anxious,
yes,
so that they're coming to see you, how does that then? My air quotes, cure them after they're done? Like how suddenly do they now have the ability to not allow themselves to become anxious again or to not be anxiety ridden when certain things come across their plate?
Great. Fantastic question. Sometimes it's as simple as knowing what's happening physiologically in their body, because sometimes when you go into an anxious state, you start to feel loss of control. So when you can understand what's happening physiologically in your body and you can understand, oh, I'm just in fight or flight because my brain has tricked me into thinking that this is a life-threatening situation. So all I have to do is talk myself out of knowing that this is not a life-threatening situation. And then I give them tools, different things that will trigger feelings of calm and peace and different types of techniques that they can use while they're going through, that, or to just kind of nip it in the bud before it even starts. And then the more you use the techniques, the more the more habit it becomes and the more effective it becomes until the anxiety just isn't triggered anymore. Sometimes we have to desensitize triggers. Sometimes it's a specific thing that will set off the anxiety. Sometimes we have to just kind of like go, okay, that doesn't trigger your anxiety anymore. Just kind of desensitize it, just kind of let it go.
I think it's interesting. Oh, go ahead.
No, so how I sort of now I'm comparing it to like Prozac.
Okay.
That it dulls a little bit. Like, I mean, because I think for me, I've always been resistant to taking like anti-anxiety and antidepressants because everyone's like, I don't want to not feel what I feel. I guess the trick is to not feel it at the level.
Height.
So is that sort of like what the hypnosis does, that you still feel, okay, I still need to keep in check here. Is this a situation where my life is in danger or not?
Right.
But now the quote unquote Prozac is now helping you kind of put it in perspective?
Kind of a little bit. More like you become the conductor. So you decide because that anxiety response is a completely natural, innate response. We can't control the actual response. But what we can do is go, oh, okay, that's a false response. I can bring everything back down again.
It gives you like that delay, right? I mean, I've been on anti-anxiety meds. So the difference for me has been the reaction to the, oh, I don't have to do that. Hold on. Is it worth that? Nope, I'm good. Like,
what is my choice?
Yeah, and so sometimes it still results in, but
right.
it
gives you a chance to kind of
Yes.
Take a breath for a second to
Yes.
assess.
And what is that comes out of my mouth, or
Exactly.
is it as damaging?
And what is
or,
the thing that caused you to do that? So is it a behavior? Is it someone who, is it someone who cut in front of you? Is that the trigger for your anxiety? Because then let's desensitize that so that next time someone cuts in front of you, you're like, okay, man, wow, you're in a rush, rather than,
Right. Well, because even
So
when
that's
someone
what
cuts,
we mean by desensitizing the triggers, rather than, because we don't want to dull emotions. We don't want to take your personality away. You are who you are, and you're wonderful and amazing and beautiful. But yeah, let's bring you back some control. Let's make you the conductor of your body, because you are. We really are. We just think that we're not.
But I think what's interesting is, just take that analogy of the car cutting you off. I think some people are automatically able to be like, what's up with that person? And other people get crazy. And I think one thing that I've noticed, going to your sessions is that you don't just go in, sit in a chair, and then you get hypnotized. Like, you very much have that talk therapy where you trigger the issue. So I think if you're freaking out over somebody cutting you off, like maybe you didn't feel important, or you didn't feel heard, or, you were always cut off from expressing yourself, or whatever it is,
You're a hypnotherapist.
No, maybe in my next life. But I think that's what's so fascinating too, because those triggers, and it goes back to what you were saying, Kim, understanding why you would get so crazy over something that really isn't about what's happening at all.
100%. Absolutely. Because road rage isn't just road rage for the sake of being road rage. It's because of feeling suppressed. It's because of not feeling like your needs are being met. It's because of, like you said, you're constantly being cut off. You're not being heard. You were undervalued. You're disrespected, and so it's triggering a whole lot of other stuff. The beauty about hypnosis, though, is that we don't need to uncover that stuff right at the beginning. We can actually deal with the issues situationally. So we can deal with them topically, and frequently we don't need to dig deep into the issues.
So you could actually talk about it like it is a car, and feelings that you may have when that person cuts you off. You don't have to go back.
We don't need to. Unless a couple of sessions of dealing with it topically is not doing it.
Then you need to go deeper.
Yeah, then there's something
That's
happening.
interesting. So you said that, weight loss is 7 out of 10 people. How does hypnotherapy work in a way that's, not like every other diet out there? I mean, Weight Watchers or any of the other, how is it different?
Well, number one, it teaches you to lose weight from a place of love. I think that I am challenged yet to find a diet or a program that is not based in fear, that is not based on you can't eat that, lack, restriction, things like that. It's not based in love. Number two, it's incremental changes. It's small changes so they can be permanent and long term. Because the idea is you don't want to be counting calories or carbohydrates for the rest of your life. Who's got time for that? But what you do want is the amount of calories and carbohydrates that you eat to be naturally below the level that's going to make you either gain weight or put the weight that you've lost back on. You want it to be at a level where it's just going to maintain any weight that you've lost or keep you losing weight. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of a long sentence, right?
Yeah. So, in a day of people wanting instant gratification,
it's challenging.
You could probably, I relate to that. How do you, because 12 weeks of deprivation where you can drop 3 sizes sounds kind of cool, but then you crash and burn, but then they come into you and you are slow and
yes. And I have these arguments with students all the time because they're like, I know what works. Let me do what works. And I'm like, that's fine. You do what works. All you're doing is pushing the whole process back however many weeks you want to do what works, because what works is not sustainable. It's just not.
And how does hypnotherapy, so because you're talking about calories and carbohydrates and all that, how does hypnotherapy come into play? Like what does hypnosis do for somebody who wants to lose weight?
So we work on it with a variety of different things. So number one, it's increasing self-esteem. It's increasing that self-love. It's creating an environment where you are patient with yourself. It's putting those associations in that you can be successful at this. So many people who come in just have so many associations with lack of success. Lose weight, put it back on, lose weight, put it back on. So just, desensitizing any old beliefs. Sometimes people have fears. Sometimes people are holding weight as a protective mechanism. So then we have to release the fear so that they can release the weight in order to allow them to be vulnerable to the world, knowing that they're still safe. So it's a huge, broad spectrum depending on what's going on with each individual person.
Wow.
That one makes total sense to me because I've never been a believer in like dieting and like restricting your body from certain things because I used to be a counselor at Jenny Craig when I was in college. And I struggled with it because I was a psych major, and I'm like, but it's deeper than her just not eating the chocolate cake. It's the chocolate cake is a protector. It's a comfort. And I'm like, let's talk about that. And that wasn't what I was there to do, but I was very clear for me that there are lots of underlying reasons. Yeah. So I could absolutely see that working, no problem. Like that makes total sense to me. Well, because it speaks to what my belief is and about dating. Too. But
Freudian slip, perhaps. That'll be next.
And this is not about my weight, but I've always been the person that's like everything in moderation. Like I've never been the one like, oh, remove all of this from my body. I'm like, oh my God, I would crave it more. Like and then I binge and then
you understand
and then I start to fantasize about it. I'm like, I need to have that. And it's like, that just never worked for me in terms of changing my eating habits. So,
but I think it's interesting because, food, addiction, smoking, they all are physical things that you can go in and say, this is why I'm here. I want to stop this. But I think that when you have programming, as we all do from being a kid or whatever, food may be my trigger or, but is it more difficult when somebody doesn't have that thing, that physical thing? Like Kim, you don't have any addictions that I know of.
Right. No, I don't. Sometimes no, but I wish I did.
But for all of us, so let's go back to the whole happiness thing. Yeah. Like if we all went in for our own, what I need to do and tweak to be a more content person is different from what you would have to do, Abby, or what you would have to do, Kim. So how is it more difficult when someone doesn't have that thing in the way of making them?
If someone just comes in and goes, I'm just not at my
yes.
I'm just not at my best.
Yes.
And I'm it. I don't know.
Yes. How do you help that person?
I ask a lot of questions. Then I become the detective because they wouldn't be in front of me if it wasn't a last resort and if they really, really weren't ready for change. But perhaps they're just not introspective enough to know where the thing is. Everybody has that thing. Otherwise, everybody would be living in a state of bliss. That's the thing. And so we all have stuff. So it's just a process of, okay, question and answer. I become the detective, and we find out where are the subconscious, because that's the thing, a lot of the blocks are subconscious, so we do have to start digging. So, you just start at the top, okay? Are you happy with your job? Are you happy with your relationship? Tell me about that. Tell me about your relationship with your family. Tell me about your childhood. I usually won't default to childhood because usually if I go through 3 or 4, how's your social life? Once I get through those 4, I found like 8 things that are probably, red flags blocking. That we want to, exactly, that we want to start dealing with. Okay. Because with just a general lack of discontentment, it's usually because there's just nothing, nothing is just right.
I think that's the thing where, we've had this conversation a gazillion times that like, what is the happiness? Like what, how do you know if you're happy or not happy? Like, I don't know, honestly, if I could be happier or if I'm happiest. Like, I don't, like if I know that I could probably go back and say, I remember this day when I was really happy, but I don't know if that was really happy or if I could have been happier that day. Like happiness, the whole concept of happiness has always been such a conundrum for me.
It's very intangible.
And I think for everybody, it's different. Like contentment sometimes for me feels better than happy, because what is happy, and is that fleeting, and is it like
I think contentment, not complacency, but contentment is happiness.
Yes.
I feel like happiness and gratitude are the same. Like,
and they go hand in hand.
And I don't know how and where, and maybe it was you, Abby. Well, there's definitely a lot. There's a lot I've learned in the past few weeks with you. However, in addition to that, the past year or so, and all of challenges and things. I think gratitude has been a huge game changer for me in that acknowledging gratitude when in the past you had none in those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, and it's a great point that you guys both talk about, but for me, when I am zen, when I'm blissful, is when I have that feeling that everything is just right. I could want for nothing. This is a great moment. Everything is just right.
How do you get there?
Meditation.
Prozac.
Dial Abby.
I know, right?
But
and of course it would be very challenging. That's why Buddhist monks have to live in the mountains in order to maintain a constant state of Zen.
Right.
Because you have to remove yourself from all the stresses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So then are you really living in a constant state of bliss if you've just removed yourself? Like this is a horrible analogy, but like I think about inmates that are up for parole, right? And the parole board is saying you've been a model prisoner. And it cracks me up because I'm like, why? Because you've removed everything that is possible for them to raise havoc and be destructive. And like they're in jail. They've answered everything that they're supposed to. Therefore, they're a model prisoner because you've removed all the things outside.
Where's their challenge?
Yeah.
What are they growing through?
I think there's an attitude thing and a resistance.
Yes,
and
but when you don't have the things in front of you that put all those things in question and challenge you, like the same thing with putting monks in the mountains. If you have no things in the world to distract your plate of bliss, are you really in a state of bliss? Like
I would
if I'm a monk in downtown LA traffic, are you really going to be in a state of bliss? Like I think that would be an interesting television show.
Absolutely. And a monk in downtown LA
you know what I
traffic.
mean? But like,
seriously, you have a reality show right there. Like the most zen people in the world trying to live that every day.
I love that.
But that's my point though, that like, because I appreciate
Absolutely.
it, but like,
no, here's the thing.
Is it realistic?
Is that they probably are in a state of Zen, but is it realistic? Absolutely not. Because they did remove themselves from the stressors in order to be in that state of Zen.
Right.
I would not hesitate to say that those who find a place of Zen living in the now are probably a little bit more advanced. They're probably a little bit more spiritually growing,
right?
Because they find that same place, but they don't have to be
right
beyond, everything.
So, I mean, I think if you like go back to hypnotherapy or the mountains or prison,
I love it. It's great.
If you're able to find your place of Zen while being removed from all the other stuff, you could possibly trigger or call back that place of Zen when you are in the middle of it.
It would
and
seem
I think those
to be
people are a little more
easier.
happy.
Yes, it would seem to be easier. It would seem to create more associations in the subconscious mind where you could bring it up more easily than trying to fight through all that noise that happens in our head, like on a 24-hour basis. Right. Yeah.
Now, I think, there are a lot of listeners who can't just go out and schedule, they're all around the country, all around the world.
Yeah.
They can't just go schedule time with Abby, which is sad for them. However, do you have some tips that people can, because we're talking about being happier here. So tips people can do on their own for free in time, in order to be happier.
Yes, 100%. Number one, get to know who you are. And so it's very, very simple. You stop by making lists. You just stop by making lists.
Kim, you love lists.
I love lists. What you like, what you don't like. What are your pet peeves? What are your favorite things? Where are the favorite places that you've been? What is your bucket list? Where do you want to go? You just get to really know yourself. And I always think of Runaway Bride because I love that movie. But do you like your eggs poached or do you like them eggs Benedict?
I always use that example. Exactly. Know how you like your eggs.
Exactly. So you just really get to know yourself.
And be comfortable with how you like your eggs.
And it's totally fine if you don't even like eggs.
Right.
You just, okay, this is me, and that's okay. So that's number one, is you have to know who you are. Because when you are just treading water, just trying to figure it out, life without knowing what's important to you, without being connected to your internal roadmap, you're just going to get lost. And you'll stay lost until you stop and go, okay, it's time. Number two, I used to really dislike this idea, but I've become a huge proponent of it, is meditate. And the reason why I disliked it was because it was very woo-woo. And, the people who I knew meditated also smelled and had a lot of body hair. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just didn't associate that with myself. I didn't want to become, this image of, gurus. But at my own hypnotherapist suggestion, I started meditating. And what I realized it allowed me to do was slow down long enough that I could hear my voice, that I could listen to what's going on inside, that I could go, okay, I'm worth 5 minutes just to take some deep breaths. So I highly recommend meditating because you get so many answers to questions, and, you can figure stuff out, and you get insights, and you get so much interesting stuff when you're
breathing.
Yeah, breathing.
Yeah, and clearing your mind from all that. So,
and then read. Become a student of happiness. What does happiness look like? What does happiness mean for you? Read books. Just make it your priority to know what it is, know what it tangibly looks like in your life.
Well, thank you, Abi Caruthers.
Thanks for having me.
So how do people find you? Hypnosis with Abi, ABI, by the way. Hypnosiswithabby.com. And we'll have all the links to your program and other ways to find you on our site, broadscast.com.
Yay!
Thanks so much,
for having
Abi.
me, guys.
We'll be right back after this message.
You're listening to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie MacDougall. Two broads with faces made for radio.
Wow. Well, I need to wake myself back up.
Right? What a great show, though.
Show, yes. So thank you to our guests today, Jen Levinson and Abi Caruthers. We appreciate your opinions and your thoughts and your interest in our show. And if you, as our listeners, have more you want to talk about, please find us on broadscast.com and let us know what you think.
We'll see you next week.
You're listening to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie MacDougall. They're huge in anywhere other than somewhere that you've been before.